Welcome to our Zebra DevTalk today. We are excited for you to join us for this discussion around creating the perfect experience with the KC50 Android Kiosk Computer. Joining us today are our Zebra expert, Leslie Gonzalez, our Principal Product Manager, and Paul Cavallo, Advanced Software Engineer at Zebra Technologies. Let's make this session interactive and insightful. And before we get started today, I want to go through some meeting logistics. This webinar is being recorded and will be up on YouTube in about a week. All attendees are currently muted. If you've got a question during this session, please use the Q&A feature in Zoom. We'll have a Q&A segment at the end and we'll do our best to answer your queries if time allows. Before I hand it over to Leslie and Paul, I want to share this quick video that highlights our Zebra developer portal. The video goes through the quick overview where key tools, resources, and information can be found.
Learn, connect, build, all in one place. The Zebra Developer Portal. As an enterprise software developer, you need fast and easy access to technical information, documentation, and tutorials. You also want to connect with your peers, share and consume information to build your knowledge and competencies. The updated Zebra Developer Portal has you covered. Product pages give you quick access to product overviews, tutorials, documentation, use cases, forums, and blogs about specific products, all indexed with quick links to key developer information to help you build. Forums within the Zebra developer community make it easy to connect with your peers and find answers to your specific development questions to help you collaborate and build. Community blogs feature content from Zebra engineers and other developer experts, all sharing the latest technologies and tools to enable your development on enterprise devices. Developer events provide knowledge and networking opportunities for our developer community. Be sure to scroll through the upcoming and past events for registration information and access to on-demand content. The Zebra Developer Portal provides enterprise developers like you with the tools and services you need to build your edge. With an easy-to-use interface, you will be sure to find the resources and connections you need to build all your enterprise applications. Devices built by us, apps built by you.
Zebra is committed to empowering our developer community with the right tools and resources. We invite you to join and visit our developer portal and connect with our community on LinkedIn, X, formerly known as Twitter, GitHub. And don't miss our first series of developer webcast. You can scan the QR code on the screen and we'll also share the links in the chat later today. Be sure to follow and connect with us. We'd also like to share two of our upcoming events. Our next DevTalk on January 22 will focus on enhancing your web apps with RFID and barcode features using Enterprise Browser and Data Wedge. Plus, we will also discuss how a Gen AI tool such as ChatGPT can be used to quickly and easily create the basis of an application before manually adding the data wedge support. Feel free to use the QR code on the screen and register for that session. We are also excited to announce Zebra DevCon 2025. This in-person global event will connect you with the global developer and industry experts. You will get hands-on with our SDK and explore trending industry topic. Keep an eye out for the registration link coming soon. Future events are posted on our social channels and developer portal, so be sure to follow and check back often. Now I will hand it over to Leslie to go through the main presentation of today's webinar. Over to you, Leslie.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm going to kick us off on today's session. First, we're going to cover a very quick background of what the product is and what are the options that we have available for the product. After that, we're going to deep dive a little bit more on how we can make use of this product and how we can develop applications by leveraging some of the accessories and features that we have available. And we're going to wrap it up just going through some new features that we're adding to OEM Config NMX to manage this device, as well as the Zebra value adds that are compatible with this product. Let's go to the next slide, please. Let's kick us off with some quick introduction on the hardware and what is available and what are the main features for this product. We're very excited about the introduction of the KC50. This is the first time that we have a product that is targeting the Kia self-service space. So this product is going to allow us to address those use cases in those markets by leveraging Zebra's Android platform. On the next slide, we have a quick overview of the specs of the KC50. The KC50 has a couple of configurations when it comes to display sizes. We have a version with a 22-inch and a 15-inch display size. The picture that you see here on the screen is showing the KC50 on a portrait orientation, but of course we can use this product on a landscape orientation as well, depending on the application or the use case that we're targeting with it. In regards to on durability, this product is IP65. We have a lot of options when it comes to mounting. We can use this product mounted on a wall, on a floor, counter, and desk, and we're gonna go through some of the accessories that are going to allow us to use the product in those different modalities. From a processor standpoint, the KC50 is using Qualcomm 5430 chipset, and we are also introducing this product on Android 13, and it is going to be supported up to Android 16 in the future. We have also the option of connecting peripherals to this product. The product has USB ports that allow us to connect accessories like scanners or light bars or any other type of accessory that may be required for our application. And when it comes to solutions, we have the compatibility with different applications. Here we have support for voice. So any application that may require voice and audio functionality is going to be compatible with this product. And we also have a lot of use cases leveraging NFC. The product has in the middle of the screen an NFC antenna that is going to allow us to leverage those capabilities for either reading from digital wallets or even expanding into payment type of applications. Let's go to the next slide. In addition of having the KC50 touch computer on its own, we're also introducing as part of this product line a touch display, which is called the TD50. The touch display can be connected to the KC50 via USB-C display port. And what this is going to allow us to do is have a configuration that is dual screens for solutions like, for example, point of sale, or where we need to have a display that is facing a shopper and a display that is facing an associate in retail, for example. This is a full touch display, so it allows us to have either mirroring the content of the KC50, or if we configure that display to be an independent display, we can run different content on it as well. Let's go to the next slide, please. When it comes to the KC50 and the accessories that we can connect to it, on each edge of the KC50, we have a USB-C port, and this is called the C-Flex connector. And with that, we can connect multiple accessories that will be required for our applications. We are introducing a couple of accessories as part of this product family. One of them is a scanner, or a C-Flex scanner, which is a scanner based on the SC4720 engine, and the other one is a light bar. Because each one of the edges of the display has the option to connect these accessories, we can have configurations where in a portrait orientation we have a scanner in the bottom, light bar on the top, or if we have it on a landscape orientation, we can have a scanner on the side, or whatever application may be required or configuration may be required for the application that we're targeting. We're going to go through some more details on how to integrate those type of accessories when they are connected to the KC50 display. Let's go to the next slide, please. When it comes to configurations, I mentioned that we can install this type of product in many variations. And one of the things that is going to allow us to do that is the stand. We have a modular stand that allows us to have the KC50 on the counter, on a tabletop higher, or on a floor stand. This stand also has options to have a printer inside of it if we're going to have applications where a receipt or something needs to be printed. So it's a nice modular design where we can go to multiple variations and still leverage the same KC50. The KC50 as well has the options to have VESA mounts. So if we're going to have standard mounting options for either a counter or a wall, we can leverage that to install the KC50. When it comes to use cases, as I mentioned before, the KC50 is addressing self-service, self-ordering, and also kiosk type of applications. We are seeing a lot of interest in a lot of different spaces. Some of them, as you see here on the screen, can be for ordering and self-service. We also see this as information type of solutions where users can have access to information like navigation, products available, endless aisle type of applications. Those type of things are now available with the KC50. We also see other use cases like point of sale or assisted sale, where now the KC50 can be put in a counter to address those type of applications. In the past, we used to have tablets addressing this type of needs, but now the KC50 is a dedicated device that can be target those fixed type of installations. On the next slide, we have more use cases as well as example, and this is addressing other verticals as well. The previous one were very targeted to retail, but when we're talking about different verticals, we can also address healthcare, like check-in kiosk or information kiosk, and we also see the expansion to other verticals like airport type of solutions, parcel manufacturing, warehouses, and pretty much everywhere where we see today an interactive display or a kiosk, that's where the KC50 can be addressed. Now, when it comes to configuration, we have 4 different configurations on the KC50. We can differentiate them by the screen size, but we also have 2 variations, which is the value model and the premium model. Differences between the value and the premium models is that the value has configurations of 664 of memory, and the premium configuration comes with 828. And in addition to that, has other features as well that are enhancing this product, like for example, support to power over Ethernet for those customers where electrical installation is difficult. PoE provides an option to install this faster and in a much easier way. The premium configuration also has the NFC capabilities for either reading from digital wallets or tap to pay or any other application that requires NFC. It also has the front-facing camera if we're going to use that for either capturing images, barcodes, or for staging, or we want to use it for collaboration tools. And it has as well the vibration to provide haptic feedback to the user. The TD50 is just one SKU of the display. It's a 15-inch touch display and can work with both the 22-inch and the 50-inch KC50s. Now on the right side is an example on the configuration. As I said, KC50 is the touch computer itself, and from there we can add the touch display, the secondary touch display, and any other accessory that may be required to make the full solution. All these configurations are available today and are available in our website where we can see all these different variations and configurations depending on what we're looking for. Now I'm going to pass to Paul to address the next section, which is now talking a little bit more on developing for this type of product.
Okay, thanks, Leslie. My name is Paul Cavallo. I am the lead software engineer on the KC50. As Leslie mentioned, this is a new and unique product that we've developed, so there are a lot of new features that we haven't seen on other products before. So I'm going to, in this part of the presentation, I'm going to focus on discussing the unique features of the KC50 and how they can be used in development. Can go to the next slide, please. One of the new features is the light bar. So this is a single accessory that can plug into any of the 4 Z-Flex connectors. So those are the 4 edge connectors on the device. It can mate with any of them. I believe the typical use case would be on the top of the device, depending on your orientation, and it would allow for an associate to, to flash, to allow an associate to see if the customer needs assistance. The light bar is programmable by API, and you can program it to any RGB color, and I'll get to that in another slide, exactly how you do that. And you can also program it to flash a 2-color sequence. So you could set one color to flash for a certain period of time, followed by a second color to flash for a certain period of time, and keep repeating that. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so as I said, it does support programming the color of the bar. So how you program that, there's actually a single value you can set. It's a 24-bit integer, and it's separated into a red, green, and blue value within that integer. So the top 8 bits are red, the middle green, and then the lowest bits are blue. And you set them to the weight that you want for that specific color from 0 to FF hex on 128. So you can create many different combinations to create the color you want it to display. I put an example chart to the right here, basically showing the different values you can put and the color you'll see. Now, obviously, that's not going to be exact from what you see on the light itself. It's a little different because of the the lighting and the filtering of the light, but you can kind of get an idea as to what colors you're capable of creating on it. And obviously, if you're doing development work, you can experiment with that and create different colors. One other thing to note, programming it, you have to use a specific ID from a software standpoint for this specific LED bar, and it's a 101 integer. Just keep that in mind. It will be in the notes and the documentation, just so you identify this specific unique component. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so these are the four. So there's 4 basic functions that you can use to program this. So the first one is the simplest one, which is basically set light. So all that does is will turn on the light on your device to the specific color represented by the RGB value you defined that I spoke about on the previous slide. And that will just set it to a solid color, and it will stay on indefinitely. The second one below that is the set LED off. So if whether or not the light is on, that will automatically just turn it off. So it will go from having a color to having no color or not on, or if it's already off, it just won't do anything. The third function is set a light sequence. So that's what I mentioned before. Basically, you can set it to 2 colors in sequence that continue to repeat. So you would set the values you would send to that are the first color, which would be color 1, and then the period, which is the time in milliseconds that you want the color to display. And then the next value is color 2, which would be the second color you want displayed, followed by period 2, which is how many milliseconds you want the second color to display. And that will just keep repeating indefinitely until you stop it, or if you power the device down. And then the final API listed is to turn off the sequence. So if you have a sequence running, you can set this command to set the sequence off, which will stop it from sequencing. And if you provide it with an additional color as a parameter, it will just set it to that color in a solid state. If you don't pass the color as a parameter, it will just turn it off. Set LED off command will also stop the sequence additionally. This new command can be used if you want to turn it off and then just have it display a solid color. You can do that all in one command. Okay, go to the next slide, please. Okay, so one of the other features we have that was mentioned is the Z-Flex scanner. So this is, again, this is not an integrated scanner. This is actually considered a USB scanner. It actually plugs in the Z-Flex connectors on the 4 sides of the device are actually USB connectors. So this is set up as a USB scanner, and you can mate it to any of the 4 edge connectors to use. Now note, because it is a USB scanner, you can only have one USB scanner connected to a device at a time. That's a general Zebra use case. So if you have this plugged in, you cannot plug in an additional USB scanner. There's actually USB-A ports on the back. You won't be able to use another remote scanner, a USB scanner, at the same time. So just keep that in mind if you're doing it. If there's no Z-Flex scanner connected, you can use an additional USB scanner. Just note, because this is a USB scanner, it has some limitations when you compare it to an integrated scanner. So some features that you might be used to in an integrated scanner are not supported here. Image capture is not, but we're getting that as a future feature on the device. Optical character recognition is not supported, and multi-barcode is currently not supported because it's a USB scanner. one thing to note, one application we've seen is a customer may want to have someone scan a barcode off of their own personal mobile device screen. One thing to recommend is that when reading off a mobile, a remote mobile device screen, to set the brightness to the maximum. If the screen is too dim, it may have difficulty reading it. So typically you'll see in third-party apps on a device, if it does display like a barcode to be scanned, they'll automatically set the brightness on the device to 100%, just so you don't have the issue with the ability to read the scanner off the screen. So it's recommended, if you're going to do that, to either make sure the customer knows to maximize the brightness, or to, if you're developing an app that shows the barcode, that when you display the barcode, to set the brightness to maximum level. Another thing to note, the scanner, the Z-Flex scanner defaults to presentation mode. So there's no physical trigger button on the device, just because of the nature of the device. It's really meant to detect when there is something in range to scan, then it will turn on and scan it. So just be aware of that. That is the default state. Now you can change that state through data wipe settings. That's not a problem. But like I said, the default state of it, if you reset the device, it will automatically default to presentation mode. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Another feature, one thing we discovered is there are configurations. I mean, by default, the device does not come with a scanner. That's actually an accessory that you plug in, and there's no integrated scanner. So we found customers obviously want to stage their devices, but if there's no scanner available, they have to use the camera. Now, previously, we only supported rear camera scanning. So in this case, if the device was shipped, we only have a front camera. So we added a new feature to allow you to use the front camera for scanning. Now, it's not as good as the scan as you would see with other things. So really the primary use case for this is to stage if you don't have an additional USB scanner to plug in. So you can actually do this. Certain things will happen. So you can bypass the GMS Wizard barcode, can be scanned with the front camera. So what will happen is if you turn on the device for the first time, it'll bring up the little camera trigger, yellow circle you can see on the right side of the screen. If you press that, it will bring up the camera scanner, and you can put a barcode in the field of view of the camera and scan it to continue staging. In addition, if you bring up Stage Now and there is no USB scanner connected, the front camera will be used as the default method to stage the device. So if you bring up Stage Now and there's no USB scanner, it will also show that little yellow scanning button that you see here. And if you press that, it will bring up the camera, and you can put a barcode in the field of view to do your staging process. And if you have multiple barcode staging, it's similar. You just keep pressing the button to scan the different barcodes you have to continue. One thing to note, the value SKU does not have a camera. So obviously this will not apply to the value SKU. In that case, you're limited in your options. You really would have to connect a USB scanner or a Bluetooth scanner to the device to stage it properly. There's other methods as well, but I think those are the major use cases. Okay, thank you. Okay, as Leslie mentioned, there's also a secondary display. Typically, they go back to back on a stand, one facing a customer or the other facing a sales associate or whatnot. Just note how this works. It uses a single USB-C cable. And that cable supports both power and data. So that single cable will power the second display, and it will also provide data to the video screen. Note, you must use a supported cable. Not every USB-C cable will work, just because it may not have the correct wires connected. So you want to make sure that the cable you're using, there is a part number earlier in the presentation for the supported cables to use. One thing to note also, there's actually two USB connections on the rear side of the TD50. One is for power and one is for power and data. Make sure when you connect it that you connect it to the port that is both power and data. It has a little D above it, so that kind of signals you what to do. You can configure different modes, and I think Leslie's going to get into more detail on this, but basically you can do mirror mode and Android desktop mode. Mirror mode will just specifically mirror the screen from the KC50. Orientation will be maintained, so if the KC50 is in landscape, the second display will be in landscape, and same with portrait mode. You can also configure a unique Android desktop, which allows separate desktops between the KC50 and the TV50, and you can configure, there's lots of specific configurations you can do for the TV50 on, with the secondary desktop. And I think Leslie will get more into that when she talks about the mobility DNA features. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Now we'll talk a little bit about power. It was mentioned earlier that we have support for power over Ethernet. So the different power inputs we support are a DC input with using the standard power supply that you can purchase with the device, or it supports power over Ethernet class 4, 6, or 8. Those basically supply varying levels of power. So 4 is the lowest level of power, I believe it's 35 watts, and 8 goes up. I forget exactly what it is, but it's a higher amount. Note that because of this, some of the lower power, like class 4, the device will not support every single feature if you have a low power on there. So you have to limit the amount of features you're going to use if you have a lower power PoE connected to the device. So 35 watts, the device, if you can't necessarily connect everything and have it going full bore and expect it to work at that level. So we have the capability to configure and enable specific components based on your power input source. Before we go to the next slide, one thing you should note, the device does not have a battery. So if you unplug it, it's going to shut down immediately. There's no capacitor to keep it on for a while. So no, it is, like I said, if you disconnect it, it's going to shut down. So it's recommended always to press the power button and power it down using the on-screen ability to do that. Also note that you should not have your DC input and power over Ethernet connected at the same time. We do not support that, so it may result in unintended consequences. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about configurations. You can go to the next slide. All right, so these are the configurations that you can use on power up, and you can do this based on what your power input is. So you can make a specific configuration based on either whether you have a DC input or specific power over Ethernet class. You can set the maximum display brightness, the maximum audio volume. You can enable or disable Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and the vibrator, as well as NFC. There is a rear USB-A port. You can enable or disable the ability to use that. The rear USB-C port, which is basically the connection you use to the TV50 secondary display, can be enabled and disabled. There's actually two power sources on the rear, a 5-volt and a 12-volt power source through a header. You can enable and disable those, so they're not, so disabling them would mean they can't be used, as well as the 4 Z-Flex edge connectors. So in addition to limiting power, customers may want to disable the edge connectors just for security reasons, so people can't plug in USB devices because it's going to be generally in a public area. Okay, go to the next slide. Now, currently, the current software has predefined component configurations based on the power input type and the size of the KC50. So if you have a KC50 15-inch, and you have a specific power input, it's going to have predefined configurations based on the previous slides, the different components. Now, what we're going to have very soon is we'll have the ability for a user or for an administrator to configure the device to their specific use case, to turn on and off those parameters based on their specific use case. So if they don't like, how we have configured our, the default configurations, you can change those to accommodate your own specific use case. And the next slide, I have a little bit about that. Yeah, so these are the default settings. I'm not going to go through everything. Obviously, there's a lot here, but basically, if you can see in the left column, it shows the different KC50 configurations. These are a 15-inch over 22-inch, and then the different power inputs. And then if you look across the top, those are the different parameters that can be modified in the configuration. So these are currently the default values, and the customer will be able to configure those themselves in the future, because you can see what they're set to. If you look at max volume, it goes from 1 to 4. So that max volume is a scale from 1 to 4. So obviously, if it's 4, then it's fully functional as well. And then the rest of the parameters are either enable or disable, which would completely turn it off and make it unusable. Okay, next slide. The last thing I wanted to say about the Power over Ethernet is that we found in doing our engineering testing that some of the lower end, I guess I want to say cheaper ones, Power over Ethernet injectors, may not correctly report their power class. So it may, on the box, it may say that it supports a specific power rating, but when you actually, part of what we do is when we plug in the Power over Ethernet into the device, there's a negotiation where it determines what class injector it is, so it knows how to adjust appropriately. We found that some of the low end ones will not report a correct class, or they won't report a class, and so we consider that an unknown device, and if that is plugged in, the device will not boot. You will know that that's the case. The LED on the rear, the power LED, which is on the back side of the device right next to the power button, will flash red. And so that's an indication that you plugged in. You can go back real quick, I'm almost done. It'll flash red until it's injected. What we are doing is we're going to be providing a list of supported PoE injectors that we know have been tested by us and they do work. Okay, and that is the last of my section, and we're going to go back to Leslie to talk about mobility DNA.
So one of the big advantages that we have on this product, on the KC50, is that it is based on our Zebra Android platform. And as such, everything that is available today as part of OEM config and MX for configuring the device or for staging the device carries over to this product as well. So the same way that our customers are used to configuring TC devices or ET tablets, it's able to do on this product as well. But something that we're doing on the KC50 is that because we're addressing new use cases, a device that is always powered, always on, a device that is connected to a secondary display, and a device that is now used on kiosk type of use cases. We keep adding new features as part of OEM Config and MX to address those particular needs. What I'm going to go through is some of the features that are available today to configure and control the KC50. And as we go through new developments of this product, we're going to keep introducing new features as we see more and more use cases applicable for this product. Let's go to the next slide. The first things that I'm going to talk about is what are the best practices, or what are the features that we can leverage on the KC50 when it comes to display settings. This is a device that is always power always on, and we want it to be always available as a kiosk. So of course, being able to keep the device awake, not going into a screen timeout, is something that is recommended here to do. If we leverage the setting of stay awake, enable, disable that is available today as part of Display Manager, it's going to allow us to keep the device always available for users to interact with it. If the display goes into timeout, because that's a setting that is configured on this device, something to keep in mind is that the way that we can wake up the device is by pressing the power button. However, on our next LiveCode release for the KC50, we're also introducing the option to wake up the device by touching the display if for some reason we don't have wake configuration enabled on this device. Other things that we can do here as well, remote control. If we have a KC50 that has both the main device and the TD50 connected to it, Remote control default display is going to allow us to configure which display we want to see for remote control. If the TD50 is mirroring the display of the main device, then if we do remote control of the main device, then we can cover everything. But if for some reason the TD50 is configured to be an independent secondary screen, with this particular configuration, we can see that secondary display via remote control. Let's go to the next slide. When we're talking about the TD50, Paul and I mentioned before that there's multiple ways that we can use that secondary display. One, by default, is going to be mirroring whatever is happening on the KC50, but the other option as well is to have it as an independent screen. If we use secondary display mode, which is also available as part of Display Manager, we're going to be able to switch between screen mirroring to independent screen on the KC50 and the TD50. Other things that we can do as well is that when most of the configurations that we're seeing is that if the main device KC50 is on portrait mode, most likely the secondary display is also going to be on portrait mode. However, if there's use cases where that secondary display needs to be on a different orientation, then the secondary locked orientation is going to allow us to change that. If we want to have KC50 portrait and the secondary display landscape, then with this option, we're going to be able to configure that type of setting. Let's go to the next slide. Other things that we can do on that secondary display is that we can also control the external screen resolution. By default, the secondary display is going to be using 1920 by 1200. However, if the application requires to have a different setting when it comes to resolution, external screen resolution is going to allow us to change that. Other things that we can do as well is display size. By default, we have the default value on the screen, but if we want to change to either small or large, larger, largest, those are options that can be controlled by display size parameter. Next slide, please. Another feature that we have introduced on the KC50 is the option of having a screensaver. If we have a kiosk application running on that device, but when it's not in use, we want to show something else like an image or maybe a bulletin or maybe information or things like that, the screensaver option is going to allow us to do that. This is introduced on the latest release of MX. It's called Screensaver Scheduler. And what it's going to allow us to do is not only activate the screensaver, but also determine when the screensaver plays. If we want to have the screensaver at specific days and at specific times, the screensaver scheduler is going to allow us to do that. We can import a file. Today, we are compatible with static images, JPEG and PNG type of files. Are the ones that we can use for screensaver scheduler. And on our next release, we're also going to be supporting video files so that we can play an animation when the kiosk is not being utilized. This is a very interesting feature because a lot of our customers are saying, well, if no one is using the application or the self-service application that is on the device, I want to still leverage the screen of that device to show advertising or other images, information, and so on. So with this option, we're going to allow to enable that on this type of product. Because this is part of OEM Config and MX, it makes a lot of sense for the KC50 because of the type of applications that we're going after. However, it's not unique to the KC50. So if we're using tablets, for example, in a similar type of application, then this type of feature can be enabled for those as well. Now, the last slide that I have here on this deck is about value adds. So today we are supporting this product and shipping this product on Android 13. Q1 of next year, we are releasing Android 14 for supporting the KC50. This product also follows the same support for Lifeguard updates. So same updates that we have for other type of devices, we're going to have it for this product as well. Releases when it comes to OS updates and also security patches as well. Other things that we are supporting as part of this product, as I said, is part of the Sierra platform. So a lot of our configuration tools and other applications that are available today are compatible with this product as well, and we can take advantage of those. Data wedge to controlling the CFlex scanner, or even if we are connecting any other type of Zebra USB scanner, data wedge can be leveraged for that. EMDK, OEM config, MX, everything that is part of that is compatible with the KC52. We can use GMS restricted, is that something that is needed for the KC50? And as Paul addressed on his section, we also have the support of integrated and working with either power over Ethernet type of configurations and the LED bar that is part of the accessory ecosystem of the KC50. Power over Ethernet is an interesting feature because right now the KC50 is taking advantage of that. However, other products in our portfolio in the future that will be using power over Ethernet are going to leverage the same implementation as the KC50. For troubleshooting purposes, RX Logger is something that is compatible with this product as well, and we can leverage it for capturing logs when we're trying to debug or troubleshoot anything on this device. When it comes to applications and solutions, enterprise browser, enterprise home screen, enterprise keyboard, those are value adds that are very applicable for this product as well. This is an all touch device. So if we want to have customized on-screen keyboard for specific applications, then of course, enterprise keyboard is going to allow us to do that. If we want to have application in kiosk mode or locking the device, enterprise home screen is going to allow us to do that. And everything that is capable today with enterprise browser for developing application, we can also apply it to this product. Other things that we're supporting here as well, work cloud communication is something that we can leverage for applications on the KC50. And we have a lot of USB ports on this device. We have them on the back, we have it on the edges. So the USB host manager provides a way that we can create a allow list and block listing of which peripherals can be connected to the KC50 and mass deploy those rules to ensure that for security purposes, we only are connecting the accessories that are approved on this device on their environment. We are going to be leveraging a lot of the NFC capabilities on this device. So we are planning to complete our support for digital wallets in the first quarter of next year. So being able to leverage Google Smart Tap, Apple Watch, or even other type of solutions, that's something that is going to be possible with this product. When it comes to configuration and deployment of the device, StageNow, DNA Cloud, Zero Touch are tools that we can leverage as well with the KC50 to make the whole configuration and implementation easier and more straightforward when we're putting these units in the field. So please make sure that you also go to our sites, zebra.com, and also Tech Talks. There's a lot of information about the KC50, including everything that we went through here today. And we continue adding more and more details as we go for ensuring that we cover everything that is needed for development of applications on this product. I believe this is my last slide.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you, Paul, for a fantastic presentation. Let's move to the question answers now. And we do have a few questions that came in over in the Q&A section. So I'm going to jump into those, but if anybody else has any other questions, please use the question feature within Zoom and we will try to address them during this call today. So the first question here is, what Android OS versions are supported on the KC50?
Yes, so today, Android 13, starting the first quarter of next year, we're going to be fully supporting Android 14 as well.
Okay, thank you. Another question we have here is, how can I test the scanner and light bar?
Yeah, you can test the scanner by using Data Wedge Demo. Just remember that if you have the ZFlex scanner in, it's a USB scanner, so you just have to configure. It should come up by the default if it's the only scanner. And you just configure it through in Data Wedge Demo and test it that way. For the light bar, you can write a simple program to test it using the APIs that I presented. We're also going to be providing soon a little small app that will test the light bar as well. You'll be able to test the specific functions, setting colors, and setting the sequence of flashing as well.
Thank you. Another question we have here is, are licenses required for Zebra DNA value add?
So the KC50 is considered in the same category as our mid-tier premium tier type of devices. So an MDNA license is not required to get access to our value adds. There are certain applications, however, that do require licenses on their own. For example, enterprise browser. Those are still applicable, but this is the category of product where MDNA enterprise licenses are not needed to make use of those type of solutions.
All right. Another question. What remote control software is recommended by Zebra?
So today we are able to leverage remote control via DNA Cloud, for example. This is our own solution. So of course we are capable of leveraging that with this product. But standard third-party MDMs that we use today to manage and control our mobile devices are also able to do those type of capabilities on the KC50.
All right. Thank you so much. So with that, we wrap up our session today. Thank you so much, Leslie and Paul, to join us. We really appreciate your time, and thank you, developer community, for making this session interactive and valuable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.